Welcome to my How to Make Survivor Better video. Now apparently, I'm not the only one with this idea lately, but we'll get into that later. The reason for this video is that I was fortunate enough to attend the live finale for Survivor One World in New York City. And during one of the commercial breaks, Jeff Probst turns to the cast of Survivor One World and he says, you know what? This is not going to go down as one of the top 5 seasons of Survivor. No offense to you guys, it just didn't play out that way. And then he turns to the live audience, which I'm a part of, and he said, do you guys think that Survivor is going strong, or do you think it's faltering? And most people were like, yeah, woo, Survivor's going strong, yeah! Except one guy who said, no, it's faltering. So Jeff Probst asked him, he's like, what could make it better? And he's like, dopey dope. Make every season an all-star season. Fortunately, Jeff Probst didn't like that idea, because he knows that you have to cultivate new survivors all the time. So that's when I decided I gotta tell Jeff Probst how to tweak this show. So I tried to do it on Tout, but Tout only gives you 15 seconds, and I really couldn't put together the ideas I wanted to put together in that short amount of time. So for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you know in my previous video, I asked you guys, what do you think would make Survivor better? And I have your suggestions right here, and we're gonna go through all of those. Now normally, we laugh, we chortle, we chuckle. In this video, we're going to think a little bit. So if you don't like thinking, I'll see you in my next video, which should be sometime midsummer. So as my kindergarten teacher used to say, let's put on our thinking caps. And let's make Survivor better. Now some of you might think, like Toko Fool from YouTube, that Survivor doesn't need any changing. Toko Fool says, I wouldn't change a thing. And you know what, Toko Fool? Survivor is the gold standard of reality TV, but I personally think could use a couple of tweaks. Now, as far as I'm concerned, where Survivor needs the most tweaking is in who plays the game. Now, I think if you're watching this video right now, you're all about Survivor gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. But there are people out there who watch Survivor for the wacky characters. A good friend of mine will only watch Survivor if there's a wacky character on it. Then you've got people who will only watch Survivor if there's a hot girl on there, or if there's a guy with a chiseled physique. So you have to make everybody happy, not just the hardcore fans. And I understand that. Now, I'm not going to tell the casting directors how to do their job. They've brought us some great characters on Survivor in the past. But what I do want to bring to the forefront is that there's a quality missing in a lot of today's Survivor contestants. And that's the will, the sheer will to win this game. For instance, take Sabrina and Troyzan. Troyzan, a lifelong Survivor fan, has been trying to get on the show for 12 years. Sabrina lucked out. 3.5 weeks before she was on the show, she didn't know she was going to be on Survivor. She didn't even try out to be on Survivor. And it shows. Now, I'm sure Sabrina kicks ass in her normal everyday life. But this whole experience for her was a whirlwind and just swept her up and brought her out on an island somewhere to play a game for $1 million. So on one hand, you have a guy who has worked 12 years for something, and then you have on the other hand a girl who was just handed something. Who is going to make more out of this experience? Probably the guy who's worked 12 years for it. How many 12-year journeys can you take in your life? Not very many. So you're going to make the most of it when you get there. If I give you something, anything, you're probably not going to take care of it that much because you got it for free, you lucked out, and you might not have really wanted it to begin with. Whereas if you've worked for something for 12 years, you want that. I'm pretty sure Sabrina is awesome, and she's probably a force to be reckoned with in her everyday life. But she didn't have that fire in her belly to win Survivor. And how are you going to find people that have that desire? Well, this guy has been trying just as long as Troyzan. And I've been to 3 open casting calls, and I've met a wide variety of people there. From the dreamers who will never be on Survivor, to the interesting characters that are normally cast. I've seen beautiful women there. I've seen guys with chiseled physiques there. Interesting characters. Wacky people. I've seen them all, the cross-section. And chances are, if you're going to camp out overnight for a chance to be on Survivor, you know how to play the game and you have a desire to play the game. Other people who have a desire to win a game are applicants for Amazing Race and Big Brother. And I know that CBS already brings over contestants from those shows. And that's fine in my book because they're applying to play a game and they want to win that game, so they have that competitive spirit. They're not going to settle for second place. They want to win. And that's the one quality that's truly missing in today's Survivor contestant. Now, I know Survivor is a multi-million-dollar gamble. Every time they put a new cast out there, they're gambling the Survivor franchise on them. So they want dynamic people. They want people who can make an interesting story out of mopping the floor or brushing their teeth. I get that. And sometimes it's probably safer to find those people out in California because those are the kind of people who want to get into the entertainment industry. Unfortunately, their goal is to become famous. To win Survivor is not as important. Personally, I would play Survivor if it wasn't on television. And that's the quality that the powers that be need to find in the players, because everything else will fall into place after that. Because Survivor is reality TV. It's not scripted. There's certain things that the producers can do to try and make it as interesting as possible, casting people who will have conflicts and making interesting tribe swaps and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's up to the contestants to write the storyline of Survivor. And storyline is what's going to set apart a bottom 5 season of Survivor from a top 5 season of Survivor. I personally think that Breaking Bad is the best scripted show on television. And it's interesting because the subject matter doesn't interest me at all. I'm not a drug user, and I think that drugs are pretty much for weak people. No offense to drug users out there, but if you use drugs, I consider you very weak. It's a weakness. But the plot is so well done and the characters so well developed that I keep coming back for more every week. It's just all good storytelling. And the storytelling on Survivor is gameplay. To get that, you need people who have a fire in their belly to win the game and know how to play the game. Bottom line. So enough of my jibber jabber. Let's see what you guys think of how to improve Survivor. Now we're going to hit this in categories. I have 4 categories for you, and since I was talking about casting, let's start with casting. Anime Pony Fan from YouTube, Survivor Huey from YouTube, and Michael Norris from Twitter all said that they'd cast SurvivorTrev on Survivor to make it better. Well, I can't agree more. And judging by this, I don't think the suggestions are going to get any better. So maybe we should just end it there. Oh wait, this might get better. Anime Pony Fan also says that he would put me on the show and then make me the co-host with Jeff Probst after my season was over. That would be awesome. Now, even though the suggestions are going to be going downhill from here, let's see what everybody else has to say. Anime Pony Fan on YouTube would also like to put him or herself on the show. I'll sign off on that. You're giving me the co-host job with Jeff Probst? I'll sign off on that one. Now this one's an interesting one. Sean Crow Realtor from YouTube, Perfectamundo from YouTube, and Brian Uchik, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot of mispronounced words here. But Brian is Burvivor on Twitter. And they all want a more diverse cast. Sean Crow Realtor goes as far as saying there's too many applicants from the New York City or the California area. Basically, they want a more relatable cast. Now, I can't agree with this more. When Survivor started, it was more of a cross-section of the United States. Everyday people. Lately, they've kind of gotten away from that. So I would definitely like to see more of real America on Survivor, because that's what made Survivor great. Inkman900 from YouTube wants a full season of the first boots, the first people voted off from different seasons. Although an interesting idea in concept, I think that it would be a waste because you're basically taking an entire season of returning players that no one's going to remember. And they probably don't have the chops to win the game, so it probably would make for a very boring season. But in concept, I hear you. It's an interesting idea. Now this next one is a big one. No returning players. Read my lips. We had Ryan H. Watts from Facebook, Nilam Nays from YouTube, Wilson Christopher J. from YouTube, and Perfectamundo all agreed no returning players. Mel is so cool from YouTube and Jeffy Boy from YouTube both agreed no returning players, only bring back players for an all-star season. Now personally, I like returning players, but they have to be used judiciously. I like all-star seasons. I think everybody does. But what's happening is you're creating a climate where players like Kat and Andrea from Redemption Island, they they think they're going to have a second chance at this game. And that's not good. You want people playing this game thinking that this is their only shot to win. So they're going to put everything on the line. Once you get people starting to think, oh, I'll do this next time, they're not going to be playing this game to the fullest. And that brings me back to the guy at the live finale saying that we need all All-Star seasons. Well, with all due respect, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. If you want that, go watch those stupid shows on MTV. If you want to kill Survivor, then yes, let's have every season be an All-Star season. You're going to have career Survivor players. The quickest way to kill Survivor is to have constant All-Star seasons or have a celebrity season. Personally, I'm a huge Survivor fan, as you probably know, but I would stop watching Survivor if they did a celebrity season. That would be the death knell for the show. Which brings me to my next suggestion from Krieger's Heart on YouTube, and he or she says, don't mix new and returning players. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with mixing new and returning players. I do kind of have a problem with it constantly happening just about every season. If you want to bring back returning players all the time, then the best way to do it is have them host a challenge. Don't have them part of a game at all. Now, I mentioned this in my SurvivorTrev's Survivor review, and I said instead of having these do-it-yourself challenges, which takes all the air and excitement out of the challenge when Jeff Probst isn't there, bring back a returning player to host it. I know Jeff's a busy guy, and when he has his talk show in the fall, he might miss a challenge or two. And the best way to make that challenge exciting and special is to bring back somebody. Bring back Coach, bring back Boston Rob, and have them host the challenge. If you teased it the week before, people would tune in just for that. You could do 4 or 5 of these guest appearances each season, and I'm sure the fans would love it. Salhari on YouTube wants a winners versus losers season, and the way he or she qualifies a loser is second or third place. Salhari also suggests bringing back players that never made the jury, so a full season of players that never made the jury. Although an interesting concept, I think when you bring back players, you want to bring back the most interesting players, whether they were jury members or not, whether they came in second place, third place, or first place. So as far as I'm concerned, the qualifier should be what you brought to the table, not where you ended up in the game. Mark Comstock from Facebook actually has an interesting idea. He says that they should do a casting American Idol style. So they use the open casting calls and they have America voting for 2 of the cast members for that one season of Survivor. Now personally, I have never watched American Idol, so I don't know exactly how that works, but it sounds like an interesting idea. There's only 2 catches. Number 1, I'm not sure that CBS is interested in lengthening the season of Survivor, and this would lengthen the season of Survivor. But it would be a great idea for something on CBS.com. I'm sure they're always looking for content for the website. The only other snag on this is that Survivor is filmed so far in advance, generally somewhere around 6 months in advance, whereas American Idol is live. So you'd end up with a disconnect with the actual America's casting and then the airing of the show. But it's a very interesting idea. My friend Darren D, Autism VA from Facebook, says that he'd like 16 to 18 legitimate players, not just 4 main players with the rest being pawns. I kind of touched on this earlier, that the Survivor cast needs to be stronger in their will to win this game. If you don't have a disappointing castaway playing the game, then you're not going to have a disappointing winner. It's as simple as that. Darren would also like to see a season of applicants versus a season of recruits. Now this could be done in a stealth way. Might have already been done in a stealth way. I don't think this has a marketability where you could say to Joe Public, hey, it's going to be applicants versus recruits. I don't think they know the difference. I don't think they care about the difference. They just want to be entertained. And I think this comes from applicant angst, because we all want to play the game. I'm an applicant. I want to play the game. The thing about applicant angst, though, you want to distance yourself from that as much as possible. Not everybody is going to get to play Survivor. It's just the way it is. Not everybody is going to have their turn. You have to take it. And that's just the same way as if you were playing Survivor. No one's going to hand you the win. You're going to have to take it. which kind of dovetails into the last point here. And it's all about casting players. And again, it seems like only applicants really care about this. Number 1, Wilson Christopher J from YouTube and Slayson from YouTube both say only applicants, no recruits. Now, I touched on this earlier. I don't have a problem with recruits. I just think that they should be kept to a minimum, because chances are these are the players who really are not familiar with Survivor and might not actually be out there to win the game. They might be out there just because they're on television, which doesn't make for a compelling player. Which is pretty much what James Thuma said on Twitter. He says that he wants people playing this game that want to play Survivor and are not out there to help their career. He also wanted a superfan only season, which would be interesting. Doug Wirt from Facebook says no celebrities or football players. Evander G-Man from YouTube wants more noobs. Less returning players, more noobs. And Lazy Nikki from YouTube says no mactors, no model actors. So that rounds out the suggestions for casting. Let's get into the actual show structure. Both Survivor Huey on YouTube and Anime Pony Fan on YouTube want to start with a large tribe. Survivor Huey wants 20 players, Anime Pony Fan wants 22 players for a longer season. Personally, I think 18 to 20 is perfect. Survivor Huey wants more endurance challenges. Slicin from YouTube, Venno Howley from YouTube, and Supagem from YouTube all want the last challenge to be an endurance challenge. Who wants it more? Who wants to be sitting at the final tribal council? Now, from what I understand, they stopped doing this because some of these things would last 12 hours long. And some of you might say, 12 hours, that's what Jeff Probst is paid for. I'd like you to stare at something for 12 hours and see if somebody lets go of a stump or whatnot. That's tedious work. But luckily, there's an easy solution. Jeff Probst doesn't have to be there the entire time. He could introduce the challenge, stay there for an hour or so, leave, and then the underlings could come in and keep an eye on the challenge. And when the challenge is over, Jeff Probst can come back and announce the winner. So I 100% agree. The last challenge should be an endurance challenge. Who wants it the most? Now, whenever I talk Survivor with people, invariably, cold weather Survivor always comes up. Survivor Huey even touched on it by saying they should go to a place where the climate is cold at the beginning of the season and warms up at the end of the season, which might be a little bit difficult. Now, a true survivalist would probably enjoy a cold weather Survivor. The viewer wouldn't. And you couldn't actually let these people live on their own. There'd have to be production interference just to keep these people alive. I don't sign off on that idea. Slayson from YouTube and Nilam Nays, also from YouTube, both want a final 2. As somebody who loves the gameplay of Survivor, I agree that ultimately you would want to work towards a final 2, because the more control you could exert over this game, the more of an accomplishment it is at the end of the game. Now, I know the reason for the final 3 versus the final 2 is that in Survivor history, the 3rd place finisher that didn't make it to Tribal was usually a very good player. Nilam Nays from YouTube, Anime Pony Fan from YouTube, Slayson from YouTube, and Mel Is So Cool from YouTube all think that we should have a full intro for every show that airs for a season of Survivor. And it's a small thing, but I agree, because the small things matter. And as a fan of the show, it puts you in the mood. It gets you pumped for what you're about to be watching. Like I said, it's just a very small thing, but it's the details that separate something that's phoned in versus something that's crafted. Slicin again from YouTube and Venso Howlai from YouTube both want more gross food eating challenges. Now, Survivor was the first show to ever have gross eating food challenges. And then it was kind of bastardized by Fear Factor. So I'm guessing that's why Survivor separated themselves from it. But I wouldn't mind an indigenous gross food eating challenge once in a while. F-Type F2 on YouTube wants more daily camp life shown on television. Whether it's regular camp life or it's strategy, as long as it's interesting, that's all I care. Here's one that I 100% agree with. This one comes from Nilam Nays from YouTube and Perfectamundo from YouTube. No more Redemption Island. I can totally agree with that. Redemption Island was probably the worst thing to ever happen to Survivor. Supagem from YouTube wants more elaborate challenges. He or she also says, cut back on the rope untying challenges. Hey, I'm a fan of the big challenges myself. The more, the better as far as I'm concerned. Salary from YouTube wants to bring back the mutiny. I think the mutiny is a great element because if you're on the bottom of your alliance on your tribe, you can jump to the other tribe. Of course, you're taking your chances there because you have an unknown there. But it spices things up a little bit, and it's something that you can control. So I'm all for bringing back the mutiny. Sleason from YouTube, Perfectamundo from YouTube, Mel is so cool from YouTube, and Nilam Nays from YouTube all want more locations for Survivor. Personally, I'd like to see Survivor be in a new location every time. But to me, it's not a deal breaker. It doesn't have to be that way. Now this is an interesting one from Mel is so cool from YouTube and Anime Pony Fan from YouTube. They both want international players cast. Now as a viewer, that would probably be pretty interesting. As an applicant, I only want males with dark hair that have YouTube channels being cast on the show. Surfer Girl 8D, or probably Smiley Face, Salary, and Mel is so cool, all from YouTube, want to bring back Exile Island. Out of all the Survivor gimmicks, I thought Exile Island was the best. I wouldn't mind seeing it return. Salary and Mel is so cool from YouTube both want to see more physical challenges. SNL fan Kevin, F-Type F2, and Venso Howlai want to see more cultural challenges. I'd sign off on both of those. I like both of those ideas. F-Type F2 from YouTube also would like to see more water challenges. And I think Jeff Probst recently answered this in one of his tweets that when they're in the Philippines, they are going to have more water challenges. James Thuma from Twitter wants less supplies. He wants more of a hardcore Survivor season. As a player, I'd welcome it. As a viewer, I don't think it matters that much. Now this next one I would have included at the top of the show had Richie Hero not mentioned it. Richie Hero 7 on Twitter says the jury needs to be sequestered. Now I know logistically this is kind of annoying, but the jury shouldn't be talking with each other at Ponderosa. Even though I love Ponderosa. It's one of my favorite parts of Survivor. That's where the dragons were born, on Ponderosa. But I think at the end of the day, it hurts the game. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch here. We only have 2 more categories to go, and they actually could be lumped together, but I separated them. So let's start with the hidden immunity idol. Now, Ryan H. Watts from Facebook says that there shouldn't be a hidden immunity idol. They should get rid of it altogether. I disagree. I think that immunity idols are one of the few wild cards in this game, and the game does need wild cards. If you don't have the wild cards, you're going to have a very straightforward, predictable, boring season. Tribe swaps are another wild card, and actual immunity challenges are another wild card. Perfectamundo from YouTube only wants 2 immunity idols, 1 for each tribe. Personally, I don't get caught up in the amount of them, but just remember, Russell would have just been another player without the immunity idols. And like him or not, those episodes where Russell played the immunity idol in Survivor Samoa were very dramatic. And as a viewer, that's a good thing. F-Type F2 from YouTube and Dean Squires from Facebook want multi-piece immunity idols. So basically they're different pieces to an immunity idol, and if you find a piece, you can't use it until it's full. And if somebody else finds a piece, then you have to negotiate with them to put together an idol to use it. In theory, it's a very interesting concept. In practice, you're probably going to only have people finding 1 piece here and 1 piece there. And if they actually find all the pieces for the idol, whether it's 2 pieces or more, they might actually never use it because they might not be able to come to a consensus on how to use it. So in practice, I think it's going to be a mess, and it really won't make for good TV, in my opinion. Dean Squires from Facebook, Salary from YouTube, Slyason from YouTube, and Mel is Cool from YouTube all want more difficult hidden immunity idol locations. Dean Squires goes as far as saying that they should sink the idol in a chest 100 feet offshore. I like the idea of a more difficult location for the immunity idol. The chest idea might be a little bit extreme though, because I think only Ozzy has the lungs to retrieve something like that. Okay, we're down to the last category, which is gameplay. Mark Comstock and Darren D. Autism VA, both from Facebook, had the same idea. And basically it's to have 4 separate tribes that break off into pairs, and those pairs face off against each other. But each pair doesn't know that the other pair exists. So once the pairs are done warring with each other, they merge, and then they find out that there's another pair that has also merged that they have to face to win the game. It's a very interesting concept, but Survivor has been around for 12 years now. So I think it would be very difficult to pull off. Because the people that play this game are going to think, wow, this is a really short season of Survivor, and they're probably going to figure it out themselves. So the whole surprise aspect will be washed away. Mark Comstock from Facebook also goes on to say that he'd like to see a Survivor season that started off with pre-existing teams. So let's say mother-daughter, father-son, siblings, friends. They'd start off the game as pairs, and they'd get voted off in pairs. And then somewhere along the season, they'd break up the pairs, and then they'd play as individuals. I think it's a very interesting idea. I know they tried it on Big Brother 9, I think it was. And I think it was, at the end of the day, a little unfair to be voted out as a pair. And I'm also not sold on the pre-existing bond playing Survivor. As far as I'm concerned, Survivor should be 18 strangers. Survivor Huey from YouTube and JHK810 from YouTube both want more tribe swaps. Survivor Huey even goes on to say that he wants a tribe swap every 2 tribal councils. I think tribe swaps are a must. A tribe swap every 2 tribal councils makes it a little too haphazard and takes away the strategy element out of the game. Then you're getting into Big Brother territory. But I'd go as far as saying a tribe swap and a mutiny, or even 2 tribe swaps per season might be a good idea. SandyWater999 says no tribes, or 1 tribe with 3 immunities on the line. So in other words, everybody's in 1 tribe and every immunity challenge offers 3 immunities. It's an interesting concept, but it's not Survivor. I think it's tinkering with the actual foundation of Survivor a little too much. I just see this as using a bazooka to go deer hunting. It destroys too much of the game of Survivor and makes it something not very recognizable anymore. I personally think Survivor just needs small tweaks. Alright, we're down to the last suggestion, and this one comes from Michael Norris on Twitter and Ryan H. Watts on Facebook. And it's to let the winning tribe have a vote at the loser's tribal council. Or, at very least, let the winning tribe attend the loser's tribal council. I like the second half of this suggestion. I don't like the first half of it. And the reason for that is that too often in the game of Survivor, you get meek or weak players advancing. And this would reinforce that, because the opposing tribe is going to want to get rid of the most powerful player on the other tribe. So this actually benefits the low-end players and helps them advance in the game. If I was going to tweak this idea, what I would do is make an idol, not necessarily an immunity idol, but a hidden idol. And that idol could be used for immunity, or it could be used as a phantom vote. So basically, your 1 vote turns into 2 votes. So it will be a multi-purpose idol that you could only use once, and you could choose how you want to use it. The other part of your suggestion is the winning tribe attends the loser's tribal council. I like this idea. It's been done before, but I think Jeff Probst has enough trouble getting the truth out of the survivors during tribal council when no opposing tribe is there. I think his job is going to be that much more difficult if you put the opposing tribe there. So that's that. That is how to make Survivor better. My thoughts and your thoughts. I want to thank anybody who submitted an idea, whether I endorsed it, whether I didn't agree with it. Thank you for taking the time out to write down your thoughts and share them with everybody. Now, as I mentioned at the top of this program, I'm not the only one who had the idea to do a show like this. Former 2-time survivor Rob Cesternino did a show on this exact same topic. Now, I don't know if he felt that Survivor needed fixing or if he got wind of what Jeff Probst said during the finale. I personally haven't listened to that show yet because I didn't want to poison the well with what we're doing here. But when I'm done with this, I will listen to that to see how much of an overlap there is and if there are any new ideas over there. So that's it for this episode. What you need to do is hit the subscribe button right up here. You need to follow me on Twitter at SurvivorTrev. Check me out on Tout at SurvivorTrev. And friend me on Facebook at SurvivorTrev. I'm taking the summer off. You will see me one time midsummer where I do a special review, and then I'll see you in the fall for Survivor Philippines.